Hi everyone. Welcome to our webinar today. We're really excited to have you here. This is our last webinar of 2024, which is crazy. But it's going to be a really good one. We're really excited for it. Grateful that you have decided to join us. We're grateful for Kurt and Benjamin who are presenting today. Without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started with the webinar. We're going to start with some introductions. Uh, like I said, we're really grateful to have Benjamin and Kurt with us. I'm going to go ahead and let them introduce themselves and we'll jump into it. So, Benjamin, would you mind giving a quick introduction?
Yeah, thanks, Braden. My name's Benjamin Kuhn. I'm a senior consultant on Anglepoint SaaS and specialty licensing team. I've been with Anglepoint for coming up on 5 years now, and all of those years have been really spent a lot with VMware and Broadcom. So, really looking forward to talking about some of those changes and pricing today with everyone on the webinar. Kurt, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Look, we have folks from all over, so this is exciting. My name's Kurt Specht. I'm a Alliances Director here at Anglepoint. Looking forward to teaching y'all what we've known or learning as we've experienced VMware and looking forward to any sort of questions and answers that we can provide. All right, so without further ado, uh, here's our agenda today. We're going to go through VMware, what we're seeing, both from mostly from a pricing perspective. We're talking about a little bit of the details around VMware. We're going to go into how we see some optimization opportunities, and then also we have a tool that we offer called a price benchmarking intelligence report. I'm going to go into that a little bit of detail so you all understand what that is and whether that might be helpful for uh, your current situation. And then obviously we've talked about Q&A. We'll go through that as well. So we're going to kick this off with a quick poll. And the poll question one is, how important is VMware to your organization? Not important, all the way to critically important. Gives us an idea of where VMware is in your stack. I think it'll be good to see for other people to see what your answers are here. We'll give about 30 to 45 seconds here for y'all to respond to this. All right. So it looks like the vast majority of the participants are saying that it's pretty important. So um, between about over 75% between really important to critically important. So that's really useful information. Hopefully this webinar helps you all make some better decisions around the VMware stack.
Yeah, and I think
Benjamin?
that makes a lot of sense too, right? Everyone's on this webinar for VMware, so it makes sense that it is important for the individuals on the call today. Awesome. So with that, we do want to dive into today's landscape. And so the first thing to actually we want to do is actually go back about a year. And that is when Broadcom acquired VMware. That was in November 2023. And after they acquired VMware, they made some pretty big changes. And we have a webinar that we actually went through not too long ago titled Broadcom's VMware Licensing Changes Decoded. We will have the link for that in the chat, where we really dove into all the details around those changes. And so we do recommend, if you have not seen that webinar before, after this webinar is done, please go ahead and watch that as well. There's a lot of really good information, like I said, around kind of the details for these changes. But to keep things high level for today, as we want to spend more time kind of focus on the pricing and optimization opportunities that an organization would have. The main changes that we saw was a shift in their licensing model. So going from a perpetual with support to a subscription-based licensing model. We also saw a lot of new product offerings. We've got here in the graphic two of the new product offerings that they have, the VMware Cloud Foundation, as well as the vSphere Foundation. There are a few other ones as well, vSphere Standard, that they also offered. But along with that, they also have divested some products as well. And the other thing that I would just kind of highlight with these new product offerings is we're still seeing changes today. Just a few weeks ago, Broadcom announced that their workstation and Fusion licenses that they rolled up into the VMware hypervisor is now freeware for everyone, right? So their changes weren't just from a year ago. We're still seeing changes now, and so it's important to keep in mind that where Broadcom's at today isn't necessarily where Broadcom's going to be at tomorrow. And the final thing that we wanted to highlight that was kind of a big shift here was a change in the way that their products were licensed. So in the past, the vast majority of their licenses were or their products were licensed by CPUs or processors. Whereas now almost everything is based off of the number of cores. So all of those changes have really resulted in some pretty large price increases. And like I said, that's the main thing that we wanted to talk about today is what some of those price increases are. So with that, that's kind of the big question, right? How much is this going to cost us? And there was a study that was done in May 2024 where 73% of IT decision makers anticipated that their VMware costs would increase by 100% or more. And you can see the graphic there on the right where we have kind of the different response rates for the different categories. And I think the thing that really stands out to me is not only the fact that, right, almost 3/4 of responders expected 100% price increase, but the single largest category where we almost had a third of those IT decision makers choose is they were expecting somewhere between 200 and 300% for their price increase. So it's really something that we're seeing across the industry. Unfortunately, we have seen that with multiple clients and with just across the industry, multiple price increases where we're seeing 100+%. I think the worst or the most extreme that I've seen is where the quote that someone received was about 12x what their renewal was the year before. But typically we see it somewhere between 3 and 8 times the price of what the renewals were. So there certainly are some large price increases. The other thing that I'll just kind of quickly highlight here is we do have some list prices for some of the kind of bigger product offerings that VMware has. So the first one is the VMware vSphere Standard, which is about $50 a core. We've got the VMware vSphere Foundation at $135 a core. And then we have the VMware Cloud Foundation at $350 a core. So you can see that there's some pretty big jumps for each of the different product offerings you go to. And the last thing that I'll kind of highlight on this slide is, as we said, this is list price. There are opportunities for some discounts that you can receive with your pricing. But the big thing we'd like to highlight that we've seen across the industry so far is really your best opportunity for receiving discounts is actually based off of the length of your agreement, not so much the volume that you're purchasing now. The more volume you do purchase, that can still certainly have an effect. But going to a 5-year agreement or a 3-year agreement is going to get you a much better price per core than just having a 1-year agreement. So we really wanted to highlight those. And again, we've got the list price there to at least help with a ballpark range of where you might expect to see a quote from VMware.
And Benjamin, these are examples that you're experiencing directly through partners that our clients we're working with, correct?
Exactly. Yep. This is what we're seeing firsthand with our clients, not only with those prices per core, but then also, as we said, right, those price increases that we've seen that have been pretty drastic.
Oh, excellent. All right. So we have a second poll here. And the question is have you seen VMware price increases of 100% plus? So if you could, we'll take a couple seconds here if you all can answer this. Up 45% say yes, 10% say no, and about 45% I don't know yet. So that tells me a couple things. One, you don't know what your renewal is yet. I should, I guess that would mean that we're setting the table, the expectation that you probably will see a pretty large increase. There are some ideas that we have around this. We'll go into this into the second half of this webinar. So interesting that 45% still don't know. Well, I think it's pretty clear what's going to happen here. So.
So with that, we just talked about these large price increases, and we certainly don't want this to just be all doom and gloom, right? And so we do want to highlight here that there are certainly some opportunities for optimization and reducing that cost. And so the first thing that we wanted to highlight is if your organization has decided that the move to the subscription licensing model is what's needed, right? You need to have the latest and greatest. You need to have that support. It just makes sense for your business. Then one of the things that we would recommend looking into is not having everything be licensed by the Cloud Foundation, but going to the vSphere Foundation or even that vSphere standard, right? We've seen that if you look at the price per core that we had a few slides ago, just that change from Cloud Foundation to vSphere Foundation can save you around 60% on your licensing costs. So really keeping in mind that you don't have to go to Cloud Foundation, that if the business really only requires the products that are in the vSphere Foundation or certainly vSphere Standard, that can be an opportunity for some cost savings. The other thing that I'd like to highlight with that is even if you do have some areas or some environments that do require all of the licenses or the products that are in Cloud Foundation, right? You need NSX, for example. We would recommend looking at, does the entire estate need that, right? Maybe there's just one or two environments that do need that, but the rest of it doesn't. And so that's another opportunity where maybe for a certain number of cores for a couple environments, you look at Cloud Foundation, but for the rest of your environment, the vSphere Foundation will offer you what you need, right? So really any course that you can purchase lower than Cloud Foundation, you will have some opportunities for some cost savings there. The next thing that we wanted to highlight is remaining on perpetual licenses. This is an opportunity if you have not given up your perpetual licenses to Broadcom, and if you do not require support for your licenses. This is a great opportunity for some real cost savings, right? You're not going to have additional spend with VMware if you're able to use your perpetual licenses. One of the things that we did want to highlight is Broadcom has promised same-day security patches for some of those perpetual vSphere licenses, as well as they promise it for future products. So certainly possible that we'll see that with vCenter Server and maybe some other products. So again, it's going to be kind of specific to your environment and what the business requires. But this is a great option that we've seen some of our clients even do to avoid having to get into a new subscription licensing agreement and save some money there. One of the things that I do want to highlight here is the graph that we have over to the side. This is from that same study that we referenced a couple slides ago, where we asked, where do you consider your organization going with VMware? And we can see that the kind of top answer is keeping some VMware solutions, but replacing others. And then the second one, so about 83% total, are remaining with VMware by some way. And we do see that it's not easy to move away from VMware, right? There's a lot that goes into migrating it, finding another solution, another vendor, and there's a lot of time in that as well. And I think that's a good segue into the next option that we wanted to highlight, which is to reevaluate your vendors. We know that there are a lot of vendors that do operate in the same space as VMware, and there are some opportunities for some different cost savings that you might or optimization that you might have. I think I've even seen it with Nutanix where they are running a special that if you had VMware and you were looking to go away from VMware, they were offering some special rates. I think a lot of the other vendors in the space recognize that people are pretty frustrated with Broadcom and with the way that prices have increased so much, the way that they're moving everything to subscription, the way that they're handling some of their negotiations, right? People, it seems like, are generally pretty frustrated with that. And I think we're going to see a lot of the other vendors in the space try to capitalize on that. They know right now a lot of Broadcom's clients are looking at other solutions. And so there may be an opportunity for your organization to get some additional cost savings through switching. The other thing that we would highlight is we have kind of seen that there generally for most organizations isn't necessarily one single vendor that will provide the same features and support that you're looking for that VMware currently offers you. But there may be an opportunity for you to have two vendors that can complete it, right? So for your workspace, maybe you're looking at Citrix that can kind of cover that. Whereas for some of your virtualization, maybe it's, Nutanix or we've got a number of them here, Microsoft Hyper-V, right? So that would be one other thing that we kind of highlight and mention is that there may not be a single solution that can replace VMware, but you may have the opportunity for a couple different vendors to provide you the same features and what your business requires.
Oop.
Sorry, go ahead, Kurt.
It's all good. All right. So another option that we've been looking at is whether y'all have, if you haven't turned in your licenses, meaning you haven't changed to the subscription model through VMware, there is an opportunity to consider third-party support. There's quite a few vendors out there that offer third-party support, and Angle Point actually offers a third-party support as well. And we can support the legacy software. It goes back many versions. It doesn't have to be necessarily the latest version, etc. I know there may be some concerns around whether a customer or a client gets audited if they move to third-party support. Oftentimes, that is a consideration. However, what we pride ourselves on is that if you do move to third-party support, it's really important that you make sure that you work with the vendor of choice to make sure that your licenses are trued up and there are no gaps before making that decision into the third-party support. There's also what we call a price benchmark intelligence, and this is a tool that can be used by our clients to understand where there might be some cost savings opportunities. And the report itself is pretty clear. You can see that the 4 pages here, moving from the upper left to the lower right. The 145K savings on this is an example of a report that was delivered. That this is what we consider to be the savings that can be made by looking at the SKU level detail and understanding from there where there might be some cost savings opportunities. And you can see from the analysis, you can't read it obviously on this page, but we go into great detail about what the opportunities are from a different type of licensing perspective, where there might be savings realized by changing the licensing. There's a lot of detail in there that that our clients need to read to understand this better. And then the analysis is really baked down on the lower left part of the screen. The analysis is at a SKU level detail. We provide what your particular quote might have as a pricing, and then we try to band it through other quotes, other license types, the quantities that are similar to what our other customers or clients are saying, and then we provide a overall cost savings opportunity at the line level detail by SKU. So it's an important, it gives you a little bit more negotiation power with VMware by using this tool, by seeing what other companies using the same amount of licenses are using, and then you can try to negotiate with VMware down.
Awesome.
All right. Poll question 3. When is your next VMware renewal? All right. Roughly about 40% in less than 6 months. So now is the time to get in front of this and make sure that you understand what your options are, work with your teams to understand what their needs are. Uh, this is the time to do it.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note what we've seen with some of our clients as well is even one of the tactics that Broadcom is having with with their negotiations is to try to wait on that renewal as late as possible, right? So you're kind of put into a bind. And so what we'd recommend is even if you're not able to have some of those conversations with Broadcom, um, one, keep trying, first of all. But two, this is still a great opportunity for you to make sure you have your correct stakeholders identified, make sure you're talking with the team to understand what the business requirements are, right? That way, once Broadcom does finally open the doors to negotiations, you're ready to go, right? You have the information, you know what you're looking for, and you're able to try to move quickly to get the best results for your organization. Awesome. So with that, I know we've got a couple minutes left, and so we want to make sure that we've got plenty of time for Q&As. I've seen there's a number in there that we do want to get to. So the last thing we'll do really quickly is just highlight the VMware Managed Service. We've talked a lot about these price increases that we're seeing, these changes. And a VMware Managed Service is a great way to get in front of that. You're able to receive an effective license position. So not only are you going to know, hey, are you compliant or not, but you're also able to understand, what are the number of cores that I'm going to have to go to if you're currently still on the old perpetual model, right? So you're able to understand that, as well as we talk about all those different optimization opportunities. That's all things that we can help with, right? Especially as we're talking about the recommendation and assessment report. We're able to help and talk about third-party support or what are some other vendors that your organization might want to look into. They're all things that can be very beneficial. And one of the things that we did want to highlight is for any clients who do sign up for an AnglePoint managed service, we are offering a free benchmark intelligence report. So what Kurt was just going through, which, as he said, right, they really go hand in hand together. With that price benchmark intelligence report, you're able to have the information that you need to really give you some leverage in your negotiations with Broadcom. So if you do have any questions about not only the managed service and the price benchmark intelligence report, but anything that we've talked about today, third-party support, please feel free to reach out to us. You can see the email down there on the bottom of the screen, info@anglepoint.com. Please reach out to that, or I know Kurt and I are more than happy. You can message us on LinkedIn, or our emails are going to be here on the next slide on the Q&A. So please feel free to reach out to us, and we're more than happy to answer your questions and help you out there. So with that, like I said, we did want to make sure we have some time for some questions and answers. So we'll get into that right now. And there was one that I wanted to quickly highlight real quick. And so the question that they asked is, what compliance and performance risks might organizations face when transitioning to third-party support solutions due to Broadcom's price hikes, and how can these be mitigated? I think that's a very important question. I think Kurt kind of touched on that a little bit, that you want to make sure that you're checking all of your renewals and making sure things are aligned. The big compliance risk you need to be worried about is VMware's consistent coverage policy. So with the move to the subscription licenses, that consistent coverage policy isn't really that relevant anymore because everything's under support. But if you do still have those perpetual licenses with support and you're looking to go to third-party support, that policy will still remain in effect. So what's the situation that you'd be worried about where this would be an impact? So let's say you have your renewal here in the next 6 months, right? We saw the vast majority of those on this call have a renewal in 6 months. So let's pretend you've got a renewal here in March 2025. And that's where the majority of your estate is on. But then you still have a couple, one or two POs that weren't co-termed, and maybe those go until October 2025, or maybe it's even later than that. The risk that you'd run into by going to third-party support is VMware or Broadcom isn't going to honor that third-party support when it comes to the consistent coverage policy. And so VMware or Broadcom will see that as you are unsupporting the vast majority of your licenses, and then you're supporting just a few licenses. And so if you want to use more than just those few licenses, that would be a breach of that consistent coverage policy. The good news is you do have options. So you can look to terminate that one or two POs that you have. That's a little bit of what Kurt was kind of talking about, right? So that would be some of the things you could look to do is terminate those one or two POs that are outside of kind of that main agreement, which that will then cause the consistent coverage policy to not be an issue to worry about.
And just to add to that a little bit, Benjamin, we are seeing or hearing word on the street that VMware is ticking up on their compliance reviews, specifically around VMware. So just be aware that there is some risk there.
Awesome, yeah. Another one that I see from someone, they said, what are the best practices for managing VMware contracts post Broadcom acquisition in terms of costs and risk management? What common pitfalls should be avoided? I think that's a great question. And it's really kind of twofold. So not only should we be thinking about post the Broadcom acquisition, but also post your first renewal with Broadcom. That's kind of two things to keep in mind there. I would say one of the common pitfalls that you want to make sure you're avoiding, especially if you are going to a subscription model, is making sure that you're getting the correct number of cores. There's something we did talk about this on that prior webinar. There's a minimum core requirement that Broadcom has. And so that's one of the, I guess, kind of pitfalls that we've seen in the industry is, client organizations would go into those renewals with Broadcom. They would know that, hey, I've got X number of cores in my VMware environment, so I just need to purchase that number. But they didn't look at that minimum core requirement, which depending on the hardware that you have, I mean, that can more than double the amount of cores that you're actually required to license with that. And like I said, there's a lot more information on that and what that looks like in that webinar. Again, if you want more information, you can also reach out to us directly, like we said. But I'd say that's probably one of the biggest pitfalls that we've seen is just getting the incorrect number of cores, which then causes you to be immediately out of compliance, and then you have to purchase more and kind of go through that. So that would probably be the biggest pitfall that I'd say we've seen. Let's see, and I know we're about 2 minutes over. Let's see if we've got maybe one more question that we can answer here. Let's see. Let's do this one I see. So someone asked, what do you do when Broadcom's account team won't sell you VVF and only focuses on VCF? And that's one that we've seen recently. They have something new that they called a strategic partner. And I think when they initially announced it, it was going to be about 2,000 of their clients. But I think they've since moved it down to about 500. That strategic partner, there isn't a lot of information about what qualifies you to be in that. I think it's mainly going to be based off of your total spend. But like I said, there's not been anything completely concrete out there. But Broadcom has said that if you are one of those strategic partners, they're only going to offer you that cloud foundation, right? So that's where, so what would I recommend in that situation, or what can you do? We've seen that they've been pretty stern. They haven't really budged. We had a client who was in the exact same situation and they didn't need it, right? They didn't feel like they needed Cloud Foundation. They didn't want to spend all that extra. And so they were one who then we actually went and looked at third-party support as a solution for them. So I would recommend in that situation, one, if you feel like you really need the subscription licenses, still keep trying with the negotiations to hopefully loosen things up a little bit. But if they aren't going to budge and you really don't want to go to the Cloud Foundation and that level of spend, that's where we would look into some of those different optimization opportunities that we talked about to try to lower those costs. Um, but with that, I think I know we're about 5 minutes over now.
Yeah.
Braden or Kurt, I don't know if you guys have any final thoughts you want to add, but I think for kind of the questions and answers, that's all we've really got time for. I guess I would just add in again. I think I said this already, but if we didn't get to your question, I apologize. There were a ton of questions in there. Please feel free to reach out to us. Right, we really do want to answer everybody's questions. We want to help you guys out. So please feel free to, like we said, reach out to us, reach out to Angle Point, and we'll make sure that we can get you guys some answers and help you guys out with your Broadcom estate.
Absolutely. Thank you, Benjamin. Thanks, Kurt. Um, yeah, thanks. Big thanks to everyone who attended today and participated. We will be going through all the questions that came in, and we'll be reviewing those and reaching out to you. Again, we'll send an email with the recording and with some answers to your questions. Thank you again. Really appreciate it. Keep your eyes out for that. And we hope that you have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much.